Hi, my name is Sienna Calderon, and we are on the Legacy Circle podcast. This is, I don't know even what episode we're on right now, but with me I have Anjelica, and you are the founder of the Latina Leadership Podcast.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me more, I want really to know, the backstory,
The Latina Leadership Podcast?
Well, before we get to that,
Okay.
just the backstory of, who you are.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Okay. It's a long one. But absolutely, I'd love to share it with you. First of all, Sienna, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate it. So, my backstory, born and raised in Houston, Texas, Easton. So, for those who don't know what Easton used to be like, I was a teenager in the 90s. So, it was it was an interesting time. I mean, there was the whole blood versus Crips versus neighborhood, and I'm from those. I want to talk to you the way I would talk to my friends. Okay.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I'm from Denver Harbor. I'm originally from Denver Harbor. So I was just north of the bayou. So just from east end. So I grew up in the 90s. I had dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
Well, I was zoned to a school I didn't like, and then I went to a school that was an alternative school. Now the alternative schools are much more they're definitely selective, and you have to apply, you have to do all of that. Ours were alternative schools. They were charter schools where if you didn't go anywhere else, if you were kicked out by every other school district or any other school, that's where you would go. That's where I ended up.
Yeah.
Dropped out, got pregnant with my son. I was already about 20 years old, and then my principal from that high school called me and said, "Hey, Anjelica, you only have a few more credits to graduate. Are you gonna come back?" And I'm like, "No, I'm pregnant. Whatever." And he's like, "Actually," he goes, "we have a home. Somebody comes to your home to teach you or brings you your work, and then they take it back to the teachers to so they can grade." And I was like, "Oh, that's an option. Then okay."
Yeah.
So I went back to school, graduated at 21 years old, and I was a single mother, and then I met my now husband about a year and a half later. But I was for me, and this is a part that I like to share simply because it's a big part of who I am and my personality now, and why I am the way I am and what I do. For that year and a half, which was it was always difficult. My teenage years were always difficult, but the more one that stays in the top of my mind is when I had my son, because it was no longer me, right? I wasn't fending for myself anymore.
Right.
I was no longer trying to know where I was going to sleep at a friend's house or sleep, do something, whatever.
Yeah.
Figure out how to survive, basically what I was trying to do when I was a teenager. So now I was trying to figure out how to survive with my kid. I literally lived out of my car. I lived out of my car. I didn't live in my car. I lived out of my car. So my wardrobe, his wardrobe, all of it was in my car. And I would bounce back and forth from my aunt's house to my sister's to anywhere and everywhere that I can sleep on a sofa, on the floor, as long as my kid was sleeping on something comfortable. I used to carry a pack and play. Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Portable.
Yes. So to put my baby in it so he could sleep, and I would just either sleep next to it or put it up against the sofa or wherever I was at. And it was like that for quite some time, but I didn't want to give in to the statistics. I didn't want to, how can I explain this? Because I never wanted to come off difficult or different for anybody else as if I'm making it less than.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give into the statistic of single mom now works, at a retail, and there's nothing wrong with that.
You felt more for yourself.
Well, I don't know if it's more. I knew it was gonna get me into a place where I was never gonna be able to get out. I had seen it happen to my sister. I had seen it happen to other people in my life.
Yeah.
I was a little bit older, so I think I was just a little bit wiser, just a tiny bit. I didn't want to give it that satisfaction of life of she's another she's another Latina girl who had a kid, young and single mom, and yeah, we can
Yeah,
expect
with
this
your
out of them.
circumstances. Yeah.
And so I basically I continued to go to school. I begged a friend of mine who just happened to be much older than me, but he was a security at the high school that I graduated from.
Yeah.
So he hired me to be a security at the high school that I had graduated from.
Yeah.
And so he would put me at a desk like way in the back, and I was going to school part-time. So I was going to community college, and I was working part-time at the school.
Uh-huh.
And this was the time that I had like all my shit in the car. I'm sorry if I'm cussing.
No,
I had everything in my car. And so I remember people would walk up to my car and they'd be like, I was so embarrassed. And I was like, I don't have a trash can yet, so I have my trash in my car, so like that I can, when I have access to a trash can, when I stop at somebody's house, I put everything in the trash can and I clean it out as much as I possibly could. But it's a 4x4 like space. There's not much you can do.
Yeah.
And so I remember in my trunk is where my baby stuff was at, and so I would go to the back of the trunk I would go to like Sam's or whatever, with of course not my card, but somebody else's card, my sister's, and I would buy like the big boxes of the wipes, so I could save money, and I think it was that baby something. Anyway, I would buy like boxes of that stuff to save money, and so I carried bulk of stuff. So it would be in the back seat, and every time I need diapers, I'm like, it was so vivid in my mind. I still remember this. And I was so proud of myself because I could afford the diapers. Like I was buying all the stuff for him.
Yeah.
And I would open the trunk and I was like, okay, I'm dropping off at my aunt's house. It's probably gonna be about 5 diapers. And she was always on, hey, God, give me that pack of wipes. Give me that this, give me that. And so I really have to commend my aunt for like, she's the one that told me, go do what you gotta go do, leave the baby, go. And there was times when I couldn't sleep anywhere else, I would sleep at her house. She didn't have a bed for me, but she had the space. So there was 4 walls, and within those 4 walls, I could sleep wherever it was at. There was times where I was like I said, I had the pack and play, and I would like set up my kid, and I would like sleep on the floor, and I was fine with that because that's what needed to happen. I couldn't change my circumstance in that moment, so that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. But so me and my son lived out of my car, not in my car, jumping from place to place. And then finally I was like, okay, I have to stop moving so much. I need to figure out what I'm doing. My mom owned a house that they were renovating, so it didn't have a kitchen. It didn't have hot running water, but it had 4 walls. Yeah. So I would live in the space. I moved everything out of 1 bedroom, and I lived in that bedroom. Now that house is just packed with stuff. So I couldn't go anywhere else because then I was messing with other people's stuff. My mom, my sisters, you know how it is. If you move your family stuff, they're gonna get mad. So I didn't want any problems or issues. So I did as minimal as possible. I lived out of 1 room. And then about a year and a half later, like I said, I met my husband. We dated for a little while before we decided to like get together. Yeah. And then long story short, I became depressed and anxious about a year into our relationship. I stopped driving, I stopped working, I stopped. A situation happened to me. Yeah. Within that time frame that I couldn't deal with, and so.
Just relationship wise, or
personal.
Yeah,
personal. Just personal wise, I couldn't handle it, and I didn't know how to handle it. And so, unbeknownst to me, what I thought were moments of me dying was just me having panic attacks at like 12 years old, at 13 years old. I didn't know that. Okay. So I didn't know I was predisposition to like forms of mental health issues. Yeah. So I already had panic attacks. I've already having like bouts of depression, but they weren't severe the way I got it when I was about 24, 25 years old. And that sent me into like not leaving my house, becoming agoraphobic, like I said, depression. You know, when people talk about depression, they talk about it in the sense of like, oh, I'm depressed. And I'm like, I don't know.
Like it's obvious to people almost? Or?
Yeah, but it's sad, right?
Oh,
like I'm severely sad. I'm severely grieving. I'm severely, and I get that. Yeah. Depression, I didn't know this. Mm. I was having bouts of depression, which means I was going in and out of like, oh, I feel kind of like, dang, this sucks, you know. that severeness of that emotion.
Yeah.
Depression is different.
Yeah.
It's so hard to describe it. The best way I can describe it is when you lose hope, and not even like, oh, nuts. It's more like, holy shit, I don't see tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't see. This isn't. Yeah, my life is never going to be. I can never get better. I am never. This is terrible. And so when I started to seek out, again, I'm always trying to see how I can help, even in my mindset, because of my survival mode, in my depression, I knew that I needed to seek how to figure this out. And it was instant. It was an instant. It was an instant. It was like a mechanism within me to like figure it out without knowing that it was me trying to figure it out. Because again, I was surviving all over again. So I'm trying to survive on a place, like trying to, okay, I have a kid. I can't leave. Like I can't in the physical world. Like I can't leave. What do I do? Like I need help and bad. And so at this point, I had already did my 2 years of school. So I was at U of H, and at U of H they have a program for like mental health. They had like a something, or it was like a building that you would go to.
Oh, like counseling.
Yes. And so it was a clinic though. So it was run by doctors and professors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different, and they were trying this new group cognitive behavioral therapy, and I was like, fuck, I have nothing to lose, let me try that. So as I started for myself, so I don't want to make little of it, but that kind of set off my like mental health journey to where now I can sit here with you and not have a panic attack, and I can walk upstairs and not have my heart rate go up a little bit and not like lose my shit. Like this right here would have sent me into who knows where. Like I would have just panicked. I would have been like, hey, or you would not be getting me today. You would be getting the version of me who I had to suffice and be exactly who I needed to be to survive the moments.
Yeah. And
not feel like I was gonna tumble over and feel like I was dying, basically. So, for a lot of what you asked, just a simple question. There's a lot of it to me. I think I that is definitely part of what I want to touch on. So it's about 30%. Of it, but for your audience, I that's what I wanted to share. Yeah. But if you have any more questions, please, absolutely. Any more specific questions?
No, I mean, and I think too, just going, but even seeing like your Instagram page and stuff, and it's like the person that I see as far as like who you could be is like, I'm like, oh, like she's dancing and she's so, just having fun, like I was laughing because I'm like, oh damn, like she's really feeling herself, like good for her, because I think sometimes we like need that in life, you know what I'm saying? Like I think I don't know why I'm crying, but
I'm sorry.
I think we like get in those modes where we don't like think about ourselves, and I like what you touched on, I think really hit home because I recently had a child, so I kind of like feel some of that, but I think I feel like I'm in a better place from where it was like previously, and I'm grateful for that. And I think like looking now, like as a mom, I'm like, oh yeah, I have to be so present and like and like I get in modes where I'm like, shit, like where do I go to like release that, but I think it's important to to have that outlet like for yourself. Like I think anybody just in general, needs those outlets, but I think God, like my just claps for you, because I come from a single mom, and like I know what what her struggles were, and my family was supportive, but like she still, you know, she was young too. She was 23, but like she was still like in college trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I think she, you know, and my mom is like such a proud person too, that it was like, I don't want to like she wanted help, but it was still like, how do I ask for it and not feel like I'm just a burden to people? Or, you know, like, she still wanted to have her dignity and be like, no, I got this. I'm able to do this at the other as a mom, you know. Sorry.
No worries. See, and I never apologize for being emotional. In true honesty, that's there's never anything wrong, because I think the emotional side of us is the one that keeps us like moving on.
Right.
Props to your mom for continuing to like. It's hard to ask for help. It's hard to, you know. There was a sense, like I told you, there was a sense of this embarrassment, like, oh fuck. Yeah. Like people get to see like the me, right? Do I put on a presentation? Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be only me if I only showed you the bad side of me.
Right.
And I want to be able to, I want to be the person that I wanted to be back then. Now that I have the luxury of doing that.
Yeah.
Now that I have the luxury of not questioning where my next meal is going to come from, and being hungry today, and being hungry right now, not being able to eat today, and still knowing that I'm not going to be able to figure out where my food is going to come from tomorrow. So I think we see us having pride as such a bad thing, but honestly, it's the only way we know how to survive. It's the only way we know what we're doing. Because we already feel like it's easy to feel sorry for yourself.
Right.
It's easy. That's the easy part. The hard part is figuring it out. And that's and I give a lot of credit to my aunt, who said, go do what you gotta go do, and then come back for your kid. And I was like, oh. So I didn't have to worry about my kid being in daycare. I didn't have to worry. It's the women in my life that really, really helped. Yeah. Always the women in my life. And they come in droves in different places. Sometimes it was my friends. I couldn't depend on my family. Sometimes it was my family. My friends kind of disappeared. Sometimes it was my cousins. Right now it's like my nieces who are like just calling me up. Hey, I know you're sitting there at home, like just, you know, rotting in your bed. Let's go freaking have breakfast. And I'm like, shit, okay, let's go. I was like, can I go however? She's like, I'm just however. I don't care where we go. Let's just get the hell out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, yeah, let's go. So if I could, I have no advice at all, but if I can, I would lean into those invites and those females in your life who know where you're going through.
For sure.
Who understand what it is to be a mom, a woman in today's world, who understand what it is to explain to people that, I probably look privileged, but you have no idea. Yeah. I probably look like I have it together, but you have no idea. You don't, this is a facade that you see today. I get to go home and reminisce of my past and try to figure out my future. So I would never feel sorry for the emotional side of you. Yeah. Because honestly, that's what keeps us like at a fucking level 10 when we have to only be at a 10. Right. So yeah.
No, yeah, I have those moments a lot, but it's funny because I think even through, it's so weird because I mean, don't get me wrong, I've always been like, you know, so proud of being like a woman, but I think like once you have a baby, it's like a whole different level. Like I'm like, oh my god, like even when I was pregnant, I was telling my friend this because she's now pregnant with her second child, and I was telling her, I'm like, I don't know like what came over me, but when I was pregnant, I was like so confident in myself, and like I've always like been like fairly thin and stuff, so like, but I've never been the type to like wear crop tops all the time. Like I'll wear it if I go out, you know, for something, but I'm not one to like show my body like that. And like I'll wear tight stuff, but like to show like my midriff, like I'm not doing that like often. And I like did not care when I was pregnant. I'm like showing my belly, like I wasn't even like wearing a bra sometimes, like. But and I was laughing because my mom is like more reserved, and she was like, I remember we were like on FaceTime. She's like, "Okay, is this the new look?" I'm like, "Yeah, it is." Yeah, sorry, it's a new look. But I was just so like unapologetic about it, and then even like kind of after being pregnant, I think that almost like I still have the adrenaline of like I just had a baby. I'm like, you can't tell me nothing. Like even my boyfriend was like, or he was like, my mom told me this would happen. Like once you had a baby, like you were just gonna, you know, like not care. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I don't know what you're talking about. But I still kind of like was off of that a little bit, and then like somehow like the day-to-day just kind of keeps happening, and then it kind of just wears off, you know. And then I'm like, I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, I don't know, like I feel like in a weird spot, you know, like I had my baby, and I'm okay, like I'm trying to figure out my new normal, but it's still like weird, you know. Like I'm still like, okay, wait, hold on, like almost looking at like the past version of me, but then like, okay, like that's just not you anymore, you know. Like there's some parts that you can hold on to, but like it's just like a new me, you know. Like it just is what it is, you know. And so I'm trying to kind of like like I'm like rebranding almost, you know, because like I mean even like I started my podcast like when I was pregnant, but it was just like it just came to me, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing this, you know. But yeah, that's kind of where I've been at. But I understand I've had very amazing women in my life, and I'm kind of almost now like I think when you're at that age too and you have a baby, like it's different. Like I think even some of the conversations I have like with certain people in my family, like my moms or my aunts, like they would say certain things and be like, no, but like how are you, you know what I'm saying? Or like they'll ask her a question, I'm like, you know, like Latinos aren't like that, you know, like we're not really asking those questions, and I've never been asked that much like how I am in my life, and I'm like, okay, like is that like, I mean, I'm not against it, but like okay. Or like just sharing, like my mom even like kind of shared some stuff too about like how her experience was like with her pregnancy and just life in general, and it was so new to me, but I was accepting them, you know. I love being in that stage, you know. But I mean, we're in Women's History Month, and I think a lot of who you are is definitely embracing that, you know, I'm a Latina woman, and this is I'm showing up as this, you know. How has like, where did you come into that?
Oh my God. So for me, I can't feel sorry for being a Latina because I can't feel sorry for existing.
Right.
I cannot. But I'll tell you this. When I was young, when we are completely oblivious to what life really is, to what life actually is, there is this bliss that happens when we're little, where we don't know that people are richer or poorer or anything. We just know our circumstance a lot of the time.
Yeah.
We see our friends at school for 8 hours, but we come right back home and life is life. We deal with what we have in front of us. When I was little, I was curious. I was a curious girl. And I was very much, I knew I had an identity right when I was little. I remember, so there was times where I was happy, like dancing in front of the mirror. Like I love to do a lot of dancing, coloring, and all of that stuff that really, really like make me happy. I remember one time I was dancing in front of the mirror, and my brother's friend like comes across the window, and he sees me and he backs up, and I'm like dancing in front of him, and he's like, and he starts laughing at me. Because he's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. He's like, oh my God. And I'm like, it's like 11 or 12 years old. I was like, damn it. When I got depressed, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I would avoid the mirror when I was like brushing my teeth, or I didn't have any mirrors like around me, because the thought of looking at myself sent me into depression. I was like fuck her. you know, I couldn't to save my life look at myself. And so I didn't know what I looked like for years and years. And so by the time I knew it, when I was looking in the mirror, I was completely changed. I was different. And when I started to actively seek, like trying to figure out my mental health, I started to like be like, okay, taking off my clothes in front of the mirror. Right? I hadn't done that in years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what happened? Like, what happened to you? Or looking at, I don't know, looking for that innocence in me again.
Yeah.
Not even the beauty, just my innocence, just who I am to the core, that sad little girl dancing in the mirror, trying to live in the moment. And I was like, okay, I need to figure this one out. So I think it's always not a good thing to look back, but it's a good thing to look back at the happy memories.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to look back at them, even if they cause you sad and pain. They were happy. There were moments in your life where you felt a sense of glee, where you felt a sense of like who you were.
Yeah.
We are all by nature curious, and that's where we are in our innocence, in our little selves. And I revisit her, not her like I'm a third person, but I revisit that thought process.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Like I remember it was not this Christmas, but the Christmas before, I decided not to have Christmas with my family. And we were in Arkansas. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting on the sofa. I'm sitting on the sofa in Arkansas, in the home that we lease in Arkansas. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I have Anne Frank puzzles and I have a coloring book and I have like just shit around me. And I just start to cry. And my husband's like, what the hell? And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm like crying, just bawling because this is what I wanted. This is it.
Yeah.
This is all I ever wanted on a Christmas day. I didn't want to be gifted. You feel sorry for the girl who was like in somebody's strange home that my stepdad, brother, cousin, and my mom was there, and I didn't have any gifts, and so the girl would feel bad and she'd run and like wrap up her gift to give to me. Like, and I was like, I had already seen it, so it was already, you know what I mean? So I had already known what that poor girl was trying to give me her gifts, and I'm happy, you know, it makes me grateful for it, but it just kind of solidified that I didn't have it. Not that I wanted it, but I also didn't want to be put in the situation where I'm watching other people open their gifts.
Right.
So I was like, and it was just for me. This was my moment. This was my Christmas. And I'm sitting there just bawling and crying and trying to, what the fuck is wrong with me? Why am I crying? And I'm like taking apart the puzzle and putting it back together. And I'm like, and so when I go to the stores now and if I see something that I'm like, I would have loved that as a kid. Yeah, I'm gonna take it. It's only fucking $13. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And my husband's like, what the fuck? I'm like, I didn't tell me. Just say nothing to me because I'm going to get it. I'm gonna buy it.
Yeah.
I when the Barbie movie came out, I was like, oh my God, that's everything that I was when I was little. So all of a sudden I'm into Barbie and I'm Barbie this and Barbie that and Barbie everything. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? I was like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Yeah, make fun of me. Yeah, talk about, I don't care. I'm never going to be able to live through this again. When I go, I go. When I leave, I leave. And this is it. I mean, do you want me to look strange at 40? Not playing with Barbies, but having Barbie accessories and Barbie wall paintings or whatever. I was like, do you want to be 60? Like, which one is it? Don't you think I would look better at 40, like trying to figure out my childhood instead of trying to figure it out at 60? It's like, pick one because I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Even if I was 60. So back to your question, how do I figure it out? I think for me, it's always remembering that I was happy once.
Yeah. That
there was a place where I was comfortable with who I was. And revisiting her often. Yeah.
I like that. I think it's funny because I think when you have kids, like it's almost that like unlearning of like everything that we thought like we had to, you know, like when you're young and like you want to be like an adult already, like as a little girl, you already like want to be doing the makeup and this, that, the other, and you start almost now like unlearning that stuff, like wait, no, everything that I thought the structure and this, that, the other, like is not it, you know, like that's not everything that we thought it was. And I'm starting to kind of like unlearn that. And like I said, I've really been trying to be like very present. Like if I'm seeing like my son like smile or be happy about that something, like even if it's like funny, I'm like, it's funny when he like poops or something, he's like smiling. I'm like, why are you smiling?
How old is he?
He's 5 months, going on 6 months.
Yeah. He's tiny.
He's small.
I haven't seen a newborn in forever.
Really?
Yeah. I haven't held a newborn in forever.
Oh my god.
Forever. And that's, people think they're a child, of course they're gonna whatever. And I'm like, no, they have personality.
Yeah.
They know who they are. They're very comfortable. They're like, this is what you figure it out. I don't know what your problem is, like, but that's so cute. So he poops. And
and then,
smiling.
He's like smiling. I'm like, really? So I like, and too, like I think too, like I've lost. I used to. I don't know. Well, I guess I've just never been like this. Like I've never been really good with patience. But I've also been someone that I'll internalize it. Like I'll never maybe be like, oh my god, like you know, you're not doing this, or you know, or you're not doing that. But I've always just internalized it. I've never necessarily vocalized it, but like inside, I'm like, this, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like talking shit inside. But now I'm almost like it's all coming up, so I'm like, oh my god, like you know, if he's laughing, I'm like, all right, like I guess we're laughing together, you know. Where like previously I'd probably be like, this little kid, like you know, like kind of like annoyed, you know. But now I'm like, all right, I guess we're laughing at this situation, you know. And it does bring you down to earth, you know, and like be a person. And it's like, I mean, that's just what it is, you know. And even like, and I kind of like, I have my moments too where I kind of get mad because I'm like through work, I work at this company, and for most of my pregnancy I was remote, so I finally had to go back to work. And I don't know if I like internalized it and I was just kind of like upset, or this guy or this person really said it the wrong way, but I was like asking, I was telling them like, hey, this is how my schedule was, because I was getting a new boss, and I'm like, I would like to work more remote because this guy like wants us to go inside. And I'm like, you know, I have a new kid, like I don't really necessarily have someone to take care of him during the day, like it would be a lot easier if I worked remote. And he made a comment and was like, oh, I would hate to be that person to make you bring your kid into work, or like, I'm like, why'd you even make that comment? You know, like,
that's
I don't
what
know.
I asked.
You know, I'm like, okay, I just asked if, you know, if I could work a little more remote, right? And then he made that comment, and then like another supervisor was asking like where like the nursing area was, right? And she was like, she was like, I don't know, she just like started talking about something else. She was like, I don't really know where it is, but like I'll get back to you, but like I would never want to micromanage you. Like I don't know how it works. She's not a mom, so she was like, I don't know how it works, but I would never want to micromanage you. Like if you have to take your time, I'm like, okay, again, not what I asked, but you know, and I don't know, just like little things that I would like hear, or I don't know, just like little things, and I was just kind of like annoyed with people almost like not being understanding of it. But it also made me realize, like, am I that way with other people, you know? Like, am I not understanding of whatever, if it was something that I've never personally experienced, you know? Just kind of like try to like flip it on me, but at the same time I was just also annoyed. I'm just like, I want to also voice my opinion and demand like that this is just normal, you know? Like we all go through different things, whether it's having a child or whatever other personal things we go through, but like we're not here to work, you know, like we're not, I don't know what the expression is, like we're not working to live or living to work, whatever it is, but we're not doing that. Like we're here just trying to like get our paycheck and go back to our homes and like be happy, you know? Like I'm not trying to do that, but yeah, like just certain things like that, I think it was just like kind of bug me, but I think in this process, I'm just trying to, you know, like embrace everything, you know, and not being so like, I'm trying to be more patient and like I'm trying to be more chill and like all these things, you know, and then I come home and like my house is a mess and I'm like, oh my god, like I have to like figure this out, you know. Like I was having a whole conversation with my friend and she's like, you know, like I was like complaining about my boyfriend that he wasn't cleaning and she's like, you know, you just have to like, she's like, we went through that too, and I'm like, I'm just like going through it right now.
Yeah, I get petty. Good for you. I think maybe this is just because of like the way I am. I get petty. Like if I'm not gonna get, this is not advice.
Yeah.
This is don't take my advice.
Yeah.
Don't take my advice. But I get petty. Like if you're not gonna help me, guess what? I'm the one that washes clothes. I'm not washing your shit.
Oh no, believe me, I'm definitely doing. Yeah, no, I have my moments for sure.
No, if we're not, I'm not. If I'm cooking for one. Yeah. If I'm like, I get petty because I'm like, man, you better like. If I'm pressing and pushing, you better press, and that goes the same for work. Like if you see me overcompensate, like even during my pregnancy, if you see me giving my all, it was because I probably needed my time later. It was probably because I need you not to micromanage me. I need you not to. I also need you not to be a bitch about it either.
Right.
But I need to be able to figure this one out. So. Figure it out. Like y'all need to figure it out. Y'all, the same way. This is what people don't understand. The same way that you change and your family changes, like when you have a kid. The same way the company changes. The company doesn't flow the way it's always going to flow. So you have to adjust to whatever the circumstance is.
Right.
So, and people hate figuring out that adjustment. They hate figuring out.
Yeah. When
you have a kid, you don't have the option to do I want to figure it out? No, you have a whole living person that you need to figure.
Right.
Like this isn't. I'm not making believe. Like I can't put him in a drawer, put him away, and then come back at some other time or some other moment and start playing like house. Like I think sometimes people don't understand, and especially like. People who love their position and they figured it out and they're like, fuck, does that mean I have to put an extra 2 hours out of my week? Yeah, if you're managing me and that's your job and that's why they hired you to figure it out. Like maybe I need to hire somebody part-time or I need to hire somebody to do admin because she can't take care of admin like inside. So she has to work from home to do, you have to move the pieces around. That's kind of, the way this is gonna work, and it's impossible to make people. I think sometimes it's culturally too. It's impossible to get people to figure out the fact that we invest a lot of our time into family, into what our house feels and looks like, and what we wanted to resonate when people step in, who we invite, how long they get to stay. Yeah. Because I do invite people into my house. There's some people that don't get to stay long. There's some people that I don't invite to stay overnight. There's some people, you know what I mean? Yeah. And we invest a lot into that because it's what makes us, in all honesty, I think we thrive on just wanting to feel comfortable in who we are. So in terms of like work, I think that in true honesty, it's going to be a lot of pushback. You're going to have to, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to, like 40 hours out of the week, 10 of them have to be from home. Yeah. Whether that's Monday morning and all day Friday. That's just the way it's going to have to work. So, I'll try to do everything that I can, wrap up on Thursday, however this looks. Like, and also, even after we give them options and they're unwilling to participate and help, because we now understand we have to have empathy. We understand now that we're taking care of a family and kids, that empathy is a huge part of that. if we give them empathy and give them solutions, and they're unwilling and they're unwilling and they're unwilling, for me, if there was somebody else that I could talk to like above them, then I would.
Yeah.
Again, but that's just me. This is not advice. I'm petty. I'm that person. No. I'm that person who's like, you're not fucking helping. I need you to move.
No, actually, no. Well, I missed a key part. Like, they were, at the beginning, they were definitely, because I had went back to work, but then I went back to work for like 2 weeks, and I realized, well, I already knew, but I had like unused PTO time. So I took my whole, I was offered 2 weeks for Christmas, but they were moving me to a different department, which is not, I guess they were really busy, like as a company, like end of the year, whatever, right? Not my problem, like why move me into a different department knowing your situation? So I took 2 weeks off, and they were like, the guy was like, well, I mean, I wouldn't, if your previous boss already accepted it, like, I'm not going to say no, but if it was up to me, I'm like, I don't really care. Like, just tell me what it is, Like, it's the first time I really had to deal with this at a job. Yeah. But, and I was irritated because I'm just like, and I hate that. Okay, for example, like, I just hate when people, because I've been in customer service, and I'm one of those type of people, like, I really tried, to make people happy, not like that, but like, just like make their experience good, right? Yeah. And I remember I was pregnant, and I went to this breakfast place, and they stopped breakfast at like 12 o'clock, right? We got there, it was 12 o'clock. It turned 12:01 when we got to the cash register, and he was like, yeah, it's just not letting me do it anymore. Like, just one of those. And I'm just like, so you're telling me, like, you can't, go in the back type of thing and just make it work? Like, it's 12:01. Like, what, you just threw out every breakfast thing? Like, at this point? Like, I don't understand,
You wrapped it up already?
Yeah, I'm like, okay. But, like, stuff like that. Like, I remember I used to have, like, my ex, I remember always used to tell me this. He's just like, no, they're choosing not to do that. Like, he was always, like, the pushback, and I'm like, oh, no, it's fine. But I remember that day, I was like, no, seriously, like, we're people, like, we're not working off of a machine, like, we are people running this business, like, you can't tell me no. And like, same thing for my job, like, they were like giving me kind of pushback, and even with going back to work, I was like, I was like, well, I don't know what I told them, but I was like, like, it would just work better. And their solution was, all right, you can come back to work remotely for a month, and then after that, it's back to normal schedule. I'm like, what do you think? Like, what do you think this is? Like, I have a kid. Like, it's not just like I figure it out for a month and then what? He's just like, it's the solution. Like, it's all resolved. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna work. And then it was like, oh, well, we don't have enough desks in the thing. And I'm like, I show up to this. I've been here like a few times. There are tons of room at this building. Like, you're telling me there's not one spot for me? Like, I could work in a corner. Like, what are you saying? But I think it is a cultural thing. Like, I think in my family, like, I did go to therapy at one point, and I remember like kind of looking at certain things that my family did. Cause I feel like it's not like I've never really had like some big traumatic event. Like, my mom, like, even though she kind of struggled, like, I never saw it. Like, like, she provided, like, she did what she had to do, and like, I didn't see anything. Like, my family was around, like, all that stuff. Like, they just worked really hard, and like, we were fine, So I remember when I did therapy, I'm like, but why am I acting this way? Almost as if like some traumatic event happened. I'm trying to like pick up the pieces, like, what made me act this way? Like, why am I not as confident? Why am I, like, so shy when it comes to like voicing my opinion? I just never understood it. I'm like, why? And then I started, being more aware of things that like my family would do. Like, my grandpa's always someone that says sorry. Like, even if someone pushes him, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? He pushed you. And like, you start seeing certain things, and it just, and then even hearing their stories, it's just, you start, just seeing everything. You're like, all right, well, shit, they're just human too. They're trying to figure it out, and for whatever reason, like, that's just how it how the dice rolled, you know, and now I'm like, yeah, no, I like my son's here, like I have to voice my opinion, like I have to do that, you know, and like that's where I'm just like on a day-to-day I'm just like, oh my god, like he's gonna become aware of things, you know, and like I can't be this old version of myself, you know. I have to, like, even if it's hard, like it's so uncomfortable for me sometimes because like I'm not used to always voicing my opinion, so I do feel very uncomfortable sometimes. I'm like, oh shit, what are they gonna say, you know, like I just feel uncomfortable about it, but I'm trying as much as possible to, you know.
Oh my god, I'm excited to see where you, like, how far you get with all of this, because you sound like a very smart girl. Sound like a very smart, and like I said, props to your mom. Like, oh yeah. I hope a lot of more little Latinas and Latinas think just like you, because trying to figure it out at 40, now thinking like that, and like damn, I was a pushover the entire time. Like, So for those watching, do what she does. Listen to her, don't listen to my petty ass.
No. No, there's definitely a lot of pettiness. I'm just not sharing all the shit that I do say. But no, I mean, and you know, and just having you here, I think bridging that gap between just women of different ages, no matter whatever the age gap, like I just think it's important to, like, there's so much experience and history, and like, and we all, and at the end of the day, like we all go through the same stuff. Like, even, you know, I was sharing this with like someone the other day, and I'm like, with doing these podcasts, I've been like learning more about like my own family history, you know, and I'm like, you know, like I was saying, like there's certain things I never knew, like whether it was like my mom, and I get why you don't want to share, but sometimes I'm like, man, like that would have made me feel so much less, you know, like I was the only person going through this, or like, you know, I'm the only person that feels this way, almost like isolated in that, you know. And the more we hear stories, we're like, no, I mean, we all went through heartbreak. We are, you know, we all, you know, had, you know, challenges while like figuring out motherhood. Like we all figured things out, you know. But I think we have to do more of just like sharing stories and like wanting to ask questions, you know.
Being curious. And being willing to be open too, a little bit. Being willing to share, because it does make the difference. It does make a difference. I agree.
No, I think you being vulnerable, like I really do appreciate that, because I don't, you know, like it still takes something in us to like want to share that with someone, because it's still like this is mine, you know, like I don't, you know, or I want to protect it as much as possible, right? But like in sharing that, like that is how we connect with people, like that is how we, you know, feel less alone in this world, and like try to even help each other out. Like, you know, how have you learned to maybe ask for help, or you know, how do you ask for help?
I still don't know how. I think that it's not necessarily asking for help, it's knowing when to ask for help. Knowing when it's time to start seeking help. For me, I have a very visceral like reaction to things, and that's when I know I probably should start asking for help. I start getting angry and mad and frustrated, and not for any real reason, but because I can't figure it out, or because this is really starting to bother me. So I have to start asking for help in terms of like, who do I go talk to? What do I need to figure this out? What needs to be done? Do I really, like, you know what I mean? And so asking for help, it's not the ask for help, it's when is it time to ask for help, because that's when you know when to ask for help and who to ask help for.
Almost, I mean, I feel like you're almost saying like just intuition of like, all right, it's
time,
you know, like, all right,
because
you know, even when people say like, oh, it's time to go to the doctor, it's time for that. But it's like,
when
no,
you feel bad.
Your body, you're waiting, but it's like your body was already telling you those signals like way long before.
Have you ever noticed that you get like, you start talking about a topic and you're just mad about it all the time? Yeah, you probably should ask for help sometime at some point about that topic.
Right.
Or it's probably time. That's when you know. And you're like, who do I talk to? If I talk to my mom, it's not going to go good. If I talk to whatever, it isn't going to go good. Am I seeking understanding? Okay. Is it just because it's me? It's personal? All right. Let me look. Let me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know. I gotta call up my girlfriend. I gotta be like, hey, I'm just gonna vent to you and tell you how it's going. Yeah. Or it's like a little bit more serious, and you're like, holy shit, I need to look for a counselor who can mirror what I'm saying, and who can reflect on me, and who can ask me the questions for me to understand why I feel the way I feel, right? And then there's times where that reflection and that look back, it's no longer asking for help. Is for me, this is just for me, there was only so much I could get going in my life through therapy and all of that stuff, that I was like, I never wanted to take medication, and I gave in to take a medication a year ago, and it helped me significantly. So I was like, that's when I knew I needed to look for a psychiatrist, a psychotherapist, somebody outside of doing cognitive behavioral therapy, talk therapy. It's like, I need even then I was reluctant. He's like, gave me this, he was like, Anjelica, this is so small, it's not gonna do anything for you. I was like, but I need to test it. He was like, okay. I come back and I'm like, I can probably go up a little bit, and I'm still going up, and I'm still not at a place where it's effective. It's making its difference, but I'm so below with the normal people taking medication because I'm still so afraid of it. But with him, I was able to understand, like, okay, it's okay. I'll share this with you too, and everybody who knows this about me. I've never been on an airplane, ever, in my life. One, because I was poor as hell as a kid growing up, so there was no way I could get on an airplane. Two, the only time that I was able to get on an airplane when I was like a teenager was when I was finally graduating, 21 years old, graduating from school, and everybody was like, they do, what do they call it? Senior trips, right?
Oh, yeah.
They were going to go to Cancun or something, but I couldn't raise the money fast enough. So I dropped out from going. And then now that I can fly, now that I can go places, I don't fucking fly. And I tell that to my psychiatrist. He's like, no, we're going to get you on airplane. You got to fly. You got to get on an airplane. You got to get, and I'm like, you're more enthusiastic about it than me, man. Like, you scared the shit out of me. And he's like, you get on the airplane. And I'm like, okay, I'm working on it. But he's insisting on me. And I'm like, and now the thought of me flying would send me into a panic. The thought of me flying now, I'm like, it's just a fucking matter of time.
Yeah.
All right, Anjelica, you got to start taking these steps. And so now I start to invite people. I'm like, I don't fly. You want to fly with me? I was like, but I warn you, you might get kicked off an airplane because it might be that crazy ass wild lady who's trying to open fucking doors in the middle of the flight. I was like, or tape to the seat or something. And they're like, yeah, I'm not flying with you. I was like, okay, good. It's a good thing. I'm looking for those people who are going to be like, no, we'll fucking restrain your ass to that goddamn seat before you start losing your shit. And I'm like, okay. But even my doctor, he's like, I'll give you everything you need to take before you get on that flight.
Yeah.
So you're okay. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, everybody's on board but me. Okay.
So have you been on a flight and then it just didn't work out, or you just never stepped into it?
The mere fact, I went to a Delta Museum in Atlanta, stepping on that airplane, I was like, okay, it's this small. This small. And it's those like old airplanes that they have, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I think I can. Maybe I can. We were playing around and we sat on the seats and we took a picture. Me and my husband sent it to my son. And he's like, is mom on a plane? And I was like, yeah, no. And he's like, no, it's a museum. He's like, oh, okay. Because it's become a big deal for all of us.
Yeah.
But what I mean to say is that seeking help comes when you know it's time for help.
Yeah.
I didn't subconsciously tell him that I never been on an airplane, or don't continue to tell people that I'm on an airplane, because I don't want to be on an airplane. I'm doing this because I need to be pushed into it, because otherwise I'll never do it. I will never get on. And so he will continue to press me, and the thought of it has to make me uncomfortable. I need help. And so talking to my friends about like what I'm trying to achieve, and they're like, you're wild as hell, man. You're 40 years old. My niece told me, she said, Anjelica, it's probably a good thing you don't fly because you would never be home. I'd be like, probably, yeah. So yeah, no, you're right. I'd probably never fucking be home if I was fucking able to get on an airplane. Because as soon as I'm like, okay, I'm in fucking Zen. I don't want to be out of Zen. I'm leaving. Yeah. That's who I am. I'm like, and I'm not trying to avoid things, but I'm like, there's other things that I need to think about, that this can't be prevalent in my life in the moment. I needed to wait for a second because it has to. And so, which is probably a good thing that I don't fly, because otherwise, you're right. I was 100% you're right. I probably wouldn't be home. So God knew what he was doing when he said, Anjelica, we're going to make you fear flying. Not flying. I don't have a fear of flying. Yeah. I tell people, if I was to fly, it's because I'm going to jump off of the airplane. That's how comfortable I am being in open spaces now. Or that's how irresistible I am to staying in the flight inside of a tin can with a bunch of other people, not being able to get away. If there was anticipation that I was going to get away from everybody inside the flight because I was jumping off out, I'm in. Yeah. Like, I'm more willing to go jump out of an airplane than I am to actually take a 30-minute flight from here to Dallas. Yeah. Is it the constraint of it? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. With the agoraphobia, and especially the fear of not being able to get out of the situation. Yeah. You're in flight. You're not going anywhere. Yeah. That's it. And that I'm like, ugh. So I wasn't taking long distance buses either, because I mean, the bus I could do a little bit, because I could probably tell the driver, like, get me off the fucking bus. He probably let me off in the middle of nowhere, but at least I knew that I could get off. Yeah. I tried to take a train. We bought a train. We got the whole Amtrak suite where it's indoors, and I wasn't able to get on it. We had to cancel it on the drive to Little Rock to be able to get on that train to Chicago, because Chicago Union Station is supposed to be gorgeous. I started amping myself. I'm gonna see all these things. I'm gonna da-da-da. It's gonna be amazing. Oh my God. And on the drive there, I just started crying. I was like, I can't. He's like, okay, it's fine. We'll drive to Chicago because we still. So yeah. So I'm trying to figure it out. Yeah. But that's when I knew I needed help. When luckily for me, and I started to vocalize where I need my help after I know I identify when I needed help. Yeah. So asking for help is not asking for help, is knowing when to ask for help. That's a long-winded answer to that question.
No, I mean, I even learned a lot about that, because I think it's asking, wanting to ask the right questions to ourselves, mm-hmm. Because I think sometimes when we're in maybe a fear, or if we're just in our head about some things, there's certain things that it's just so much combobulated in our head that we just don't know what path to go. But at least that the fact that you've even narrowed it down, all right, this, I'm gonna see this one through, you know, and all right, if it's counseling, or if it's, telling my partner this, I think that's so much, because I think on a day-to-day, a lot of people maybe don't know the answer to a lot of those things, So, I mean, that's a win,
Good, yeah. Well, thank you.
All right, so do you have a place that you would want to go? If you could go anywhere?
No, I just want to take a flight. I don't care where or how or what. Yeah. It preferably empty. The airplane completely empty with no onlookers. Yeah. Of my fucking panic attack. Yeah. Absolutely, because my panic attacks look fucking wild. Yeah. So the less of the people in the airplane completely empty would be ideal. I've had offers of we'll put you on first flight, and I said hell no, because then I think for looking at like videos, people in first flight look like first flight or first class are like, you know, I'm gonna make they're paying, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna make them leave. They're gonna be like, what the fuck is she doing? So, no, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it'll happen. It'll happen. It'll hopefully sooner than later. Because there's work that I gotta do that I have to like that takes me to places. Yeah. And I hate planning out those road trips, man. I love road trips, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
When it's for pleasure, when it's for work, I was like, fuck, I gotta get there. So, you know, we're like I'm telling my husband, I was like, we're gonna have to work on the road for like about 2 days, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go. He's like, that's not fun, we're not seeing anything. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Or sometimes I tell him, you know what, just go on your own, just fly there and just do what you gotta go do and come back.
Yeah. Or
I'll send like sometimes part of the girls who would like work with us.
Yeah.
Part of our team, be like, you know, go in my place, just go. Just take the flight and go do what you gotta go do. Please come back with the information. But I know it should probably be me doing those work trips. And I know that and I understand that. And if I wanna grow in work, I should probably start getting on flights.
Yeah.
I keep getting told by everybody, yeah, you're gonna fly, you need to fly, get on a fucking airplane and go. I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out, man. Just hold on, everybody. Unless y'all want to get kicked off the airplane with me, just wait, just hold on. So yeah. So we're trying to figure it out. Hopefully we can. I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you're good. You're good.